I'm with Chip Watson, PGA General Manager at Lonnie Poole Golf Club at North Carolina State University. He's also Vice President of the Carolinas Golf Group, as well as North Carolina Golf Panel member. Chip, thank you so much for taking the time to be with me today.
Absolutely. Glad to be with you.
So as we head into our second tournament of the GCAA Summer Series, we're headed out to Lonnie Poole, Raleigh, North Carolina. Can you tell me a little bit about the history of this golf course, why it was created, and where it stands today?
Sure, absolutely. Well, the course itself, construction started in 2007, and we opened in July of 2009. So we're fairly new facility. The clubhouse here on site didn't open until 2014. So everything as a finished product here, about 7 years old. The course is on the Centennial campus at NC State. It was built to, serve the university community, public, be a home for the golf teams at NC State, men's and the women's team. We also have a PGA golf management program here, so we're the home of that program. We are always, NC State's always in the top 3 or 4 of turf grass schools in the country. So, we have a whole turf grass element there for research, kind of living laboratory, so to speak. And so we're kind of tucked away in what we call a hospitality corner here with State View Hotel across the street, and then the Park Alumni Center right across the street from the golf course here. So it's a neat little spot.
Yeah, and it's definitely neat, at least I would say. You guys are one of only 2 college courses to be certified as a Silver Audubon International Sanctuary. I also noticed, at least from your website, that there's actually 5 different types of grasses from tee to green. Why such the natural diversity on the golf course?
Sure. There's actually probably more types than that as we've kind of evolved here and there. The course was designed by Arnold Palmer and his design team. Eric Larson, Brandon Johnson, both are NC State graduates. They were the lead design team with Arnold Palmer on the project. And it was kind of meant to be, like I said earlier, a living laboratory here. A lot of research goes on here, a lot of testing, a lot of companies coming in and partnering with NC State to test chemicals, test grasses, that sort of thing. And then some of the grass differences are just based on where we are. In the state of North Carolina, we're kind of in the transition zone. Most of the courses here used to have bent grass greens and then Bermuda fairways. Over time, the Bermudas have gotten better, and a lot of courses here are switching to Bermuda grass. But ours is still bent grass greens, Bermuda fairways. And then we have different types of grass, different Bermudas in different areas. The shaded areas may have more shade tolerant grass that we put back, in the corners of the golf course, so to speak. We've got the tall fescue grass, which kind of borders the course. Looking forward to the players coming this week, because the month of June is really the perfect month to see the tall grass kind of blowing in the wind. It really defines the course from tee to green. But a lot of the grass choices and the different types have to do with the study, the university, and the testing. A project we had recently was instead of overseeding with ryegrass in the wintertime when the Bermuda goes dormant, we actually did some painting tests. And we had one of our fairways where we we painted different shades, so to speak, on there just to test it out on a real golf course instead of a testing center or in a field somewhere where nobody's walking on it all the time, just to kind of see, how that goes. So a lot of that goes on here. And, it's really, really neat. We have people traveling in from all over the world and the, turf grass industry, experts in their field. And they're always coming to this golf course to kind of look at certain areas and be entertained by the NC State team, on research, a lot of research. So it's been pretty neat.
You guys have hosted multiple NCAA regional tournaments along with a junior AM qualifier. What makes Lonnie Poole such a great host for amateur golf?
Sure. Well, when the course was under construction, we obviously wanted it to be a good test of golf for a good player or great players, being the home for the collegiate team. We wanted to make sure that, we could stretch it out. We could get some length. It would be a real challenge, especially taking technology in, we're, 13, 14 years in from when construction started there. And we wanted to make sure that we, had good length to the course so that it wouldn't become obsolete as people were hitting the ball further and further. So we kind of started with that. Then we kind of went into the all the way to the average golfer, the senior golfer, all the way to beginning golfers, and just added sets of tees, different angles, trying to make the golf course enjoyable for everybody. But we started out as, a collegiate championship venue, where, other than being a fantastic course, well-designed, won a lot of awards, highly ranked, but accessibility, we're right here, we're a mile and a half from downtown Raleigh. In fact, Arnold Palmer said it's the closest golf course he's ever built to a downtown area. So very accessible, close to the airport here in Raleigh, close with the surrounding suburbs. There were a central point here. So it's a great venue for people to get to, fun to play, can be difficult set up that way. And for, an out of town type event, like an NCAA regional or like the GCAA event coming here, the hotels are right here. You don't even have to have a car. You just get here and you can walk anywhere you want. And it's great. So, and then word of mouth, guys, play in these events and, speak highly of it. And next thing you know, we're getting calls from other groups, wanting to host more events here, different events. And we think we do a really good job operationally, for those events. So we've got lots of groups that like to keep coming back year after year. So it's great.
Chip, I'd like to get into the details of this course, kind of walk through what these players are about to get themselves into. Let's start with the first 3 holes. I think I could group these two together as one of the tougher stretches on the course. Massive par 5 to start off with, then your longest par 3, and then another long par 4, which to the club is actually played as a par 5, but when your collegiate guys come in, it's a par 4. Why these stretch of holes so early?
Sure. It's just, that's what the design kind of warranted. When we were building the golf course here, the land was set aside to be a golf course here, a little bit of wetlands area. And then there actually was a right of way from I-40, which borders the golf course here, the highway, where there was going to be an exit off the highway cutting through the golf course. And so we had to keep that in mind with design and just the way it kind of laid out. Number 2 seems to go in a little different direction that may make sense, but we were able to make a great long par 3 with a unique 2-tiered green where the lower tier is in the back. Most of the time when you have a 2-tiered green, it goes from lower level up to higher level, but that green is the reverse, which is great for a long shot that you can kind of roll in there and then get to the lower tier in the back. And then the number 3 was an interesting story there where we actually, under construction, it was meant to be a long par 4, and we found a little bit of land we thought we could use there, and we built a couple tees behind there. And actually it stayed as a par 4 when we opened, and it was just a very, very difficult hole. And so we ended up kind of changing it to a par 5 from the back tees there. But in a lot of the events, the collegiate events, play up from where the original tee was going to be and make it a really long par 4. But that is definitely a tough stretch to start on. But if you can get through there, even 1 under, then you're in a good position to get to the scoring holes after that.
Exactly. I was about to get into those. I feel like 4 through 10 is where these kids can really start putting down some low numbers. Where do you expect in these roughly 7 holes, do you expect the lowest numbers to come from?
Sure. Definitely in that stretch, 4 to 10. 4 is a drivable par 4. Number 7 is a reachable par 5. 9 under normal conditions is a short iron in, 8's at medium length par 3. But those holes are kind of right out there in front of you. And if you can get through those holes, making a few birdies, then you kind of set yourself up as you get to the harder part of the golf course on the back 9.
I feel like those harder parts that you're mentioning are probably 11 through 15, I'm guessing. When you get really to the long stretches of this golf course, 665 yard par 5, 194 par 3, another par 5 at 549. Mm-hmm. Do you expect high numbers from here? Or I think this is where kind of like the tournament might flip a little bit. It is these stretch of 5 holes.
Definitely. It always does when we have collegiate events, regionals, that sort of thing. Right in that stretch, you can kind of see it happen. And you know who's hitting the ball well and who's not. You know, you can kind of get through the whole 4 to 10 stretch. And if you're hitting it offline a little bit, you can get through there. But once you get to number 11, you start hitting it offline a little bit, you're going to start making some high numbers. Number 11 is probably one of the most beautiful holes that I've seen. You mentioned the length of the hole, downhill and then a little bit back uphill to the green on your third shot. Not a lot of guys can get close to that green in 2, even if it's downwind, but the skyline of Raleigh sits right behind it there. It's the most photographed hole that we have here. I guess we would call it a signature hole, although people argue that they're all signature holes, but that's the one where the bride and groom want to go get their picture taken out on that fairway. When Arnold Palmer was here, taking pictures with everyone, that's where that was. So number 11 is a neat hole. And then you get through 12 is a difficult driving hole. Number 13 is a very difficult green. Hard to, you don't want to go over the green. Over the green's automatic bogey, maybe higher. And then 15 is probably the most interesting hole of the golf course. It has 2 ponds on it, reachable par 5, but it never fails in collegiate events. You get guys who can, hit in the water off the tee there or go for the green in 2, and it looks like you should have an eagle chance or make a birdie, but we have more 6s and 7s than we do birdies when we have the events there. So getting through there is kind of, if you get through 15 and you've made it through that stretch, then, that's good. You're doing good.
When you hit 16, 17, I like to call this the quick breather because these are 2 of the shorter holes on the golf course. And then 18 is what I've heard as one of the more difficult holes on the entire golf course. Tell me about these 3 holes in particular, the contrast between the 2 sets.
Sure. 16, when you first play number 16, you're up. It's very visually intimidating. You're looking at it. You've got a creek down the left side. You've got some overhanging trees on the right. Then there's 3 pot bunkers that sit out in the fairway. It looks like they're all sitting together, but when you get out there, there's actually 40 or 50 yards between the first bunker and then the 2 that sit behind it. And there's actually a lot more landing area than you think from the tee. So after you've played it a few times, you realize, okay, this is where I need to hit it. Stay away from that creek. Anything on the right side, you're all right. Very large green, undulating green, but it's, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a breather hole, but it's definitely, after playing that little stretch, getting through 15, then it's a good hole there. And then 17 is usually a pitch and wedge or a 9-iron par 3. And that's all about the hole location on that one. You can, if the hole location's in the middle of the green, left, anywhere there, you hit it to the middle of the green, you got a good chance to have birdie. But sometimes you get the hole location on the front, and if you miss that green, the ball will roll all the way down to the bottom of the hill, and it's a tough up and down there for sure. Then you get to 18, is very beautiful hole, slight dogleg right. The clubhouse in the background sits on the hill. Your second shot, you've got a longer shot in there, depending on what the wind is, but you definitely have to stay away from the left. The out of bounds creeps in pretty close over on the left. Got a little hill there, so you want to cheat it to the left a little so it'll bounce down onto the green. But sometimes if you pull it left or hit it a little far, then you're out of bounds. then to the right of the green, it's just, we call it a sinkhole over there. Just the balls just tend to sink down there to the right. And it's once you hit it down there, you might want to just, go ahead and drop one and hit another one instead of getting down there and trying to find your way out. But it's a great finishing hole. We've had some super finishes in previous tournaments, guys having to, part of the last hole to win or make a birdie or something like that. And so it's great for the fans too. Spectators can stand around on the hill there to the side, and it's a great vantage point to really see. You can see the last 4 or 5 holes from standing right there. But watching the guys come in on 18 is pretty neat.
Yeah, and we really look forward to coming out there. My last question for you, Chip. Thank you so much for being with us today. With the conditions that the course are in and with the competition we have coming into North Carolina, what do you expect our final score or winning score to be around?
This time of year is when everything is playing as I think the architects intended it with, Mr. Palmer wanted to play firm and fast and hard, kind of US Open type. Kind of neat that the US Open's going on right now, right about the time that we're starting this event. We've got the North Carolina Amateur Championship going on right now. No one broke par in the morning wave this morning, and there's not even any wind out here yet. So I expect, I would say, if we don't get any rain, everything stays about the same. I'd say 2 or 3 under is a fantastic target for a winning score over the event. So, but a lot can change. If it softens up a little bit, that totally changes how it plays. Especially the shots into the green. And we've had some events here where we've had a lot of rain, didn't set it up quite as hard, maybe expecting some wind, and scores have been low. So it's, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Well, we will see for sure. Chip, thank you so much for joining me today, and we look forward to seeing you guys next week.
Awesome. Thanks, Cade. See you next week.